May 1945, a German officer walks through the wreckage of a destroyed American position. Bodies everywhere. But something doesn't make sense. American bodies outnumber German bodies by 10 to 1. But the German defenders are completely wiped out. The German officer picks up a rifle from the ground, an American M1 Garand. He examines it. No fully automatic fire, no machine gun, just a single rifle. He's confused. How did American soldiers do this with just rifles? 3 days earlier, a German general interrogates a captured American soldier. The general asks, "How many machine guns did your squad have?" The American soldier answers, "None, sir, just our rifles." The German general's face goes white. He looks at the other German officers. They realize something terrifying. American soldiers fought like they all had machine guns. Every American soldier could fire faster, more accurately, and more devastatingly than German soldiers with superior equipment. One German rifle, 8 shots, semi-automatic, loaded from the top. The Germans had never seen anything like it. American military leaders knew the truth. While every other country in World War II equipped their soldiers with bolt-action rifles from the 1890s, America gave their soldiers something revolutionary. And German generals said something that would echo through history. "If we had this rifle, we would have won the war." This is the story of the M1 Garand. This is the story of how one rifle changed warfare forever. This is the story of how American ingenuity defeated superior German engineering. In 1936, the United States Army made a decision that would define World War II before the war even started. Every other major military power in the world was still using bolt-action rifles. Rifles designed in the 1890s. Rifles that required soldiers to manually work a bolt after every single shot. Rifles that made it almost impossible to engage multiple targets quickly. The German military used the Kar-98K. Beautiful rifle, reliable rifle, completely outdated compared to what American soldiers would carry. The British military used the Lee Enfield. Excellent bolt-action rifle. One of the best bolt-action rifles ever made, but still bolt-action, still required manual operation after every shot. The Soviet military used the Mosin Nagant, rugged rifle, dependable rifle, but fundamentally the same design as rifles from 1891. The Japanese military used the Arisaka Type 99, well-made rifle, but again, bolt-action, slow rate of fire. But America made a different choice. America decided that soldiers should have rifles that fired semi-automatically. Rifles where pulling the trigger once fired one bullet. Pulling the trigger again immediately fired another bullet. This was revolutionary. No other major military power had equipped their soldiers with semi-automatic rifles as their primary weapon. Every other nation had tried. Every other nation had failed. Germany tried to develop a semi-automatic rifle. The Germans never succeeded in mass-producing a reliable semi-automatic rifle for their infantry. Japan tried to develop a semi-automatic rifle. The Japanese never succeeded either. Britain experimented with semi-automatic rifles. The British decided the technology wasn't ready. They stuck with bolt-action rifles. The Soviet Union researched semi-automatic rifles. The Soviets had some semi-automatic prototypes, but they never became standard issue. Only America succeeded. Only America figured out how to design, manufacture, and deploy a semi-automatic rifle to millions of soldiers. That rifle was the M1 Garand. The man who designed the M1 Garand was named John Garand. He was born in Quebec, Canada, in 1888. His family was poor. His family worked in mills. John Garand started working in a mill at age 12. But John Garand had a gift. He had a mind for mechanics. He had a mind for engineering. He understood machines in a way that most people never could. By age 18, Garand had already patented 2 inventions. He had moved beyond working in mills. He had become a machinist. In 1916, Garand got a job at Springfield Armory in Massachusetts. Springfield Armory was America's premier military weapons manufacturing facility. The armory had been producing weapons for the United States military since 1794. When Garand arrived at Springfield Armory, he understood something that the military establishment didn't understand. He understood that the future of warfare didn't belong to bolt-action rifles. The future belonged to semi-automatic rifles. Garand began designing a semi-automatic rifle. He worked on prototypes. He tested designs. He understood the fundamental problem that all other designers had failed to solve. How do you make a rifle that fires semi-automatically, but remains reliable, durable, and easy to manufacture? Most designers tried to complicate the solution. Most designers built rifles that were too complex. Too many moving parts, too sensitive to dirt and mud and rough treatment. Garand approached the problem differently. Garand used a gas-operated system. When a bullet fired from the rifle, the gases created by the burning gunpowder expanded. These gases escaped from the barrel. Garand designed a system to capture these gases and use them to automatically eject the spent cartridge and load the next cartridge. It was elegant, it was simple, it was brilliant. By 1932, Garand had a design that worked. But the US Army wanted modifications. The Army wanted the rifle to fire the standard .30-06 cartridge that the military had been using since 1903. Garand made the modifications. The rifle still worked. In 1936, the United States Army officially adopted the M1 Garand as the standard infantry rifle. Production began in 1937. The rifle that would change warfare was finally reality. When the United States entered World War II in December 1941, the military realized they needed to produce M1 Garands in unprecedented quantities. Springfield Armory began producing Garands. The factory worked around the clock. 3 shifts, constant production. But demand kept growing. The Army needed more rifles. The Navy needed rifles. The Marine Corps needed rifles. The government contracted Winchester Repeating Arms Company to produce Garands as well. Winchester began manufacturing Garands alongside Springfield Armory. The production numbers were staggering. At peak production, Springfield Armory was producing 1,300 Garands per shift. Think about that. 1,300 complete functional rifles per shift. That meant roughly 2,600 Garands per day at a single factory. Women workers made up over 43% of Springfield Armory's workforce. These women did everything from heavy forging to stock making. These women helped build the rifles that would win World War II. By the end of the war, over 5.4 million M1 Garands had been manufactured. Over 5 million rifles that would be carried by American soldiers across Europe and the Pacific. General George Patton, one of America's greatest military commanders, examined the M1 Garand. Patton understood weapons. Patton understood warfare. Patton had the authority and the credibility to evaluate the rifle. Patton said, "The M1 Garand is the greatest battle implement ever devised." Think about those words, the greatest battle implement ever devised. Not just a good rifle, not just an effective rifle, the greatest one ever devised. Patton meant it. Patton had commanded soldiers in World War I with bolt-action rifles. Patton understood the difference that a semi-automatic rifle made. The M1 Garand was revolutionary for several reasons. First, speed of fire. A trained American soldier with an M1 Garand could fire 8 shots in the time it took a German soldier with a Kar 98K to fire 3 shots. The American could fire and hit targets. The German soldier could work the bolt and fire once or twice, while the American was unleashing a devastating barrage. In combat, this made an enormous difference. American soldiers could engage targets faster. American soldiers could suppress enemy positions faster. American soldiers could deliver more effective firepower than any other infantry soldiers in the world. Second, reliability. The M1 Garand was incredibly reliable. Soldiers could drop them in mud. Soldiers could expose them to salt water. Soldiers could beat them against rocks. The rifle still worked. German soldiers with Kar 98K rifles had to maintain their weapons carefully. If a Kar 98K got dirty or wet, it could jam. American soldiers could be less careful with the Garand, and it would still function. Third, accuracy. The M1 Garand was accurate. The rifle had good sights. The rifle had excellent balance. American soldiers could hit targets at 300 yards, at 500 yards, at distances where German soldiers with bolt-action rifles would have difficulty hitting targets. Fourth, ease of use. The M1 Garand was simple to operate. Soldiers didn't need extensive training. Soldiers could learn to use the Garand quickly. Soldiers could fight effectively with the Garand immediately. Fifth, psychological impact. German soldiers feared the M1 Garand. German soldiers didn't understand how American soldiers could fire so many shots so quickly. German soldiers thought American soldiers had machine guns hidden everywhere. After the war, German officers interviewed by American military intelligence expressed shock at the M1 Garand. German officers said that if Germany had possessed rifles like the M1 Garand, the war might have turned out differently. This wasn't just opinion. This was the assessment of military professionals who had fought against American soldiers armed with M1 Garands. These were soldiers who had direct combat experience. These were military commanders who understood warfare. The M1 Garand had one distinctive characteristic that became famous. When the last bullet in an 8-round clip was fired, the empty clip would eject from the rifle with a distinctive ping sound. This sound became legendary in World War II. After the war, many people claimed that the ping was a disadvantage. They claimed that the sound told the enemy that the American soldier was out of ammunition. This became a popular myth. Soldiers supposedly had to reload immediately or face enemy attack while they were defenseless. But something interesting happened after the war. American military researchers interviewed hundreds of veterans from World War II. Researchers interviewed American soldiers. Researchers interviewed German soldiers. The interviews revealed something unexpected. American soldiers loved the ping sound. American soldiers said the sound was actually helpful. The sound was a tangible reminder that the rifle was empty. The sound told the soldier immediately to reload. German soldiers said the ping was terrifying. German soldiers said that when they heard the ping, they knew to attack immediately. But German soldiers also said that by the time they heard the ping and could mount an attack, American soldiers had already reloaded. American soldiers could reload an 8-round clip into the M1 Garand in about 3 seconds. 3 seconds was not much time for an enemy soldier to advance and close to assault distance. So the famous ping of the M1 Garand became legendary, but not for the reasons that many people thought. The ping wasn't a disadvantage. The ping was actually a feature that helped American soldiers. When American soldiers landed at Normandy on June 6, 1944, they were armed with M1 Garands. When American soldiers fought through the hedgerows of Normandy, they were armed with M1 Garands. German soldiers defending the Normandy beaches carried Kar 98K bolt-action rifles. German soldiers defending the hedgerows carried Kar 98K bolt-action rifles. The Germans had superior defensive positions. The Germans had prepared the beaches with obstacles and fortifications. The Germans had the advantage of prepared defenses. But American soldiers armed with M1 Garands could deliver such devastating firepower that they overcame the German defensive advantage. American soldiers could sweep hedgerows with M1 Garand fire. American soldiers could suppress German positions. American soldiers could move forward faster because they could deliver more effective suppressive fire. As American soldiers fought inland from Normandy, they faced German soldiers equipped with Kar 98K rifles, machine guns, and other weapons. But American soldiers armed with M1 Garands proved devastatingly effective. In the Pacific Theater, American soldiers faced Japanese soldiers armed with Arisaka Type 99 rifles. American M1 Garands proved more effective than Arisaka rifles. Japanese soldiers in close-quarters combat situations sometimes had advantages because Japanese soldiers could fix bayonets quickly. But in open firefights, American soldiers with M1 Garands had overwhelming firepower advantage. Military planners before World War II didn't fully understand the advantage that semi-automatic rifles would provide. Military theorists had argued about the importance of rate of fire. Military theorists understood that faster-firing weapons were effective, but military theorists hadn't fully predicted how dominant semi-automatic rifles would become in actual combat. When American soldiers armed with M1 Garands engaged enemy positions, the firepower was overwhelming. A squad of American soldiers could deliver more firepower than a squad of German soldiers, because every American soldier had a semi-automatic rifle instead of a bolt-action rifle. American infantry squads were smaller than German infantry squads, because American soldiers could deliver more firepower per soldier. American squad tactics could focus on firepower and movement. German squad tactics had to focus on other soldiers to make up for lower individual firepower. Military historians after the war concluded that the M1 Garand was one of the most significant advantages that any side possessed in World War II. The M1 Garand was as important as American industrial production. The M1 Garand was as important as American tank design. The M1 Garand was as important as American air superiority. The M1 Garand gave American soldiers a fundamental advantage in firefights that German soldiers, Japanese soldiers, British soldiers and Soviet soldiers did not possess. After the war, German military engineers examined captured M1 Garands. German engineers recognized that the M1 Garand was superior to the Kar-98K. German engineers asked a logical question: why didn't we build this? The answer was complex. Germany had tried to develop semi-automatic rifles. Germany had devoted resources to semi-automatic rifle development. But Germany had never succeeded in producing a reliable, mass-manufacturable semi-automatic rifle. One reason was that Germany prioritized other weapons. Germany invested heavily in machine guns. Germany invested heavily in submachine guns. Germany believed that the future of warfare belonged to squad-level firepower through machine guns, rather than individual semi-automatic rifles. Another reason was manufacturing complexity. The M1 Garand was complex to manufacture. The rifle required precision machining. The rifle required skilled labor. Germany was already struggling to manufacture conventional rifles in adequate quantities. A third reason was that Germany had already invested in manufacturing the Kar-98K. Switching to a different rifle design would have disrupted production. Military planners decided that the existing Kar-98K was adequate, even though it was inferior to the M1 Garand. Japan faced similar problems. Japan had invested in manufacturing the Arisaka rifle. Japan had built manufacturing infrastructure for the Arisaka. Switching to a semi-automatic rifle would have required massive retooling. Japan tried to develop semi-automatic rifles. Japan had semi-automatic rifle prototypes. But Japan never succeeded in mass-producing a semi-automatic rifle that was reliable enough for combat. The Soviet Union also tried to develop semi-automatic rifles. Soviet designers had technical knowledge. Soviet designers had prototypes. But the Soviet Union decided that bolt-action rifles were adequate and that resources were better devoted to other weapons. Only America succeeded. Only America figured out how to design, manufacture and deploy semi-automatic rifles to millions of soldiers. After World War II, the M1 Garand remained in service. American soldiers used the M1 Garand in the Korean War. American soldiers used the M1 Garand in limited numbers through the Vietnam War. The M1 Garand wasn't completely replaced until the 1950s, when the M14 rifle was adopted. The M14 was designed by John Garand himself, the same man who designed the M1. The M14 was more advanced in many ways than the M1, but the M14 maintained the basic semi-automatic, gas-operated design that made the M1 Garand revolutionary. Today, nearly 80 years after the M1 Garand was adopted, shooters still use the rifle. The M1 Garand is still considered one of the finest rifles ever designed. Shooting competitions still feature M1 Garands. Collectors still prize M1 Garands. Military historians consider the M1 Garand one of the most significant weapons of World War II. Military historians recognize that the M1 Garand gave American soldiers a decisive advantage in individual firepower that no other nation possessed. The M1 Garand proved that semi-automatic rifles were superior to bolt-action rifles. After World War II, every major military power moved towards semi-automatic rifles, and eventually to fully automatic rifles. The M1 Garand was the first semi-automatic rifle to be mass-produced and deployed to millions of soldiers. The M1 Garand proved that the concept worked. The M1 Garand demonstrated the overwhelming advantage of semi-automatic rifles in combat. The M1 Garand changed how soldiers thought about rifles. The M1 Garand showed that rifles could be more than just simple bolt-action muskets. Rifles could be complex mechanical systems that provided overwhelming firepower. The M1 Garand's influence extended far beyond World War II. Every semi-automatic rifle developed after World War II incorporated lessons that American designers learned from the M1 Garand. Every modern rifle carries the legacy of John Garand's revolutionary design. When American soldiers in the 21st century carry the M16 rifle or the M4 rifle, they're carrying weapons that trace their lineage back to the M1 Garand. The fundamental principle a reliable, semi-automatic rifle that provides rapid fire comes directly from the M1 Garand. The M1 Garand proved that American ingenuity could create weapons that were superior to weapons from other nations. The M1 Garand proved that American soldiers could fight more effectively when equipped with advanced weapons. The M1 Garand proved that innovation in military technology could change the outcome of wars.